After the car accident, I woke up miraculously unscathed. My girlfriend Aria claimed she had amnesia. Then something insane happened. I heard the voice of my deceased grandmother in my head. She's faking it, Cassian. She's pretending to deceive you. If I were still alive, I'd tell her exactly what I think. My eyes widened in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. But Grandma's voice continued. Cassian, in your past life, Aria ruined you. You had a terrible time with her and almost died from a heart attack while she was out partying with Dax. Your grandpa is about to make you choose a bride. Don't pick Aria. Pick Juniper. She's good for you. Right then, Grandpa and the family elders walked into my hospital room. They spread out photos of wealthy daughters from the 4 great families and told me to choose one to marry. I didn't hesitate. I chose Juniper Vale, the girl I'd been fighting with since childhood. I'd always trusted Grandma. If she said Aria didn't love me, then I was done with her. Grandpa studied me carefully. Cassian, are you sure about this? You and Juniper never got along. Once I announce it, there's no going back. Grandpa was a legendary figure in the archaeology world. Years ago, he'd promised that whichever family married their daughter to me would receive the Morel family's full support in excavations and museum projects. Aria's mother, Livia, immediately looked uneasy. Cassian, she pleaded. Aria can't remember you right now, but you've always loved her. Why not wait? Maybe she'll remember once you're married. Grandma scoffed in my head. Yeah, right. Last time that jerk Dax broke Cassian's watch. Cassian didn't even complain, but Aria still kicked him out. He stood in the rain in his pajamas and almost froze. Juniper showed up with an umbrella and got him a hotel room. She acts tough, but she's got a good heart. Her words struck me hard. I didn't understand why Grandma spoke of past lives, but something in my chest heightened. It felt real. Dax really had been Aria's first love. I had only dated her after they broke up. Grandpa, I've made up my mind, I said firmly. I'm choosing Juniper. Grandpa put the photos away and squeezed my shoulder. All right, I'll respect that. In 2 days, I'll announce your engagement to Juniper. Grandma sighed with relief. Good. Maybe this time, Cassian can be happy. After Grandpa stayed behind to discuss business with the elders, I changed into fresh clothes and went out for some air. 3 women were waiting outside my room. Childhood friends, all possible brides. Aria was among them, but Juniper was not. Celine smiled and stepped closer. Cassian, I heard your fiancé will be chosen from the 4 of us. So, who is it? Mira laughed. Do you even need to ask? Everyone knows Cassian is crazy about Aria. He treats her like she's made of gold. Aria gave me a cold glance. I don't remember the last 3 years. All I know is that Dax is my boyfriend. I don't love you now. If my dad wants the engagement, I'll do it. Grandma snorted. Last time she faked memory loss just to mess around with Dax. While keeping Cassian around for his money, she drove him into depression and death. What a terrible woman. I looked at Aria's cold expression. Without Grandma's warning, I might have believed her act. I had loved her for years, thinking she loved me, too. 3 years ago, Aria had lit fireworks across the entire city for me. She looked at me with shining eyes and said, Cassian, I want to marry you. I want you to be the happiest man alive. Back then, I was moved to tears. But now I realized she had only been pretending. She was tired of the act. That's why she faked amnesia to admit she loved Dax while still securing the business deal. Well, I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. Celine nudged me. So, Cassian, did you pick Aria? You'll find out in 2 days, I said flatly, walking away. Behind me, Mira whispered, Aria, it's got to be you. When you were sick, Cassian searched everywhere for a cure. He even climbed Mount Northbrooks and prayed all night for you. He's madly in love with you. Really? Aria laughed softly. I didn't know he loved me that much. My chest tightened, but I kept walking. Everyone knew I loved Aria. People even called me Whipped Heart, but I didn't care. I'd lost my parents young. My grandparents were always away on digs, and I was the kid everyone bullied. Aria had been the only one who stood up for me. I had treasured her since childhood. When she told me she liked me, I was ecstatic. I promised to treat her better than anyone. But everything she did for me came with strings attached. She never truly deserved my love. Cassian, wait. I turned. Aria walked toward me in her heels, chin lifted. I know you picked me. I'll marry you, but I love Dax. Stay out of our way. I stared at her. You lost your memory, right? How are you so sure I picked you? Aria frowned. Everyone says you love me. Who else would you pick? I almost laughed. She knew exactly how I felt, and this was how she treated me. Don't worry, I said. I won't bother you anymore. Her eyes flickered with surprise, but before she could respond, an electric scooter came barreling toward us and slammed into my leg. I hit the ground, scraping my hands as pain shot through me. Dax leapt off the scooter pale. Cassian, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Don't be mad. Before I could answer, Grandma shouted in my head. He did it on purpose. Same as last time. He always played dumb to make you look bad, and Aria always fell for it. Seeing Dax upset, Aria softened immediately. It's fine, Dax. With me here, nobody will blame you. She steadied him, then shot me a warning look. He just bumped you. Don't make a big deal out of it. Blood ran down my arm. I clenched my teeth and forced myself to stand. Dax looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Cassian, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking. I'll slap myself if you'll forgive me. Dax raised his hand to strike himself, but Aria grabbed his wrist and snapped at me. Cassian, it was an accident. Do you have to be such a bully? Grandma fumed. He hasn't said a word. And that punk's already crying. How are you the bully? I'm furious. Cassian, show them who's boss. I raised my hand and slapped Dax across the face. Then I looked at Aria. See, that's what being a bully looks like. Dax froze. So did Aria, her eyes turning cold. Cassian, you're out of line. I lifted my hand and slapped her, too. That's out of line. For years, I had spoiled her and never lost my temper. My slap left her stunned. Aria glared at me. Fine, you hit me. Don't come crying to me later. Come on, Dax. Let's get you checked out. Grandma scoffed. She ignores your bleeding arm and runs to help another man. Heartless. She'll regret choosing him. I stared at the blood dripping down my arm. Once, even a small cut would have made Aria panic like the world was ending. Now, she didn't even look at my injury. She just scolded me while protecting the men she truly cared about. Grandma was right. Marrying Aria would be a disaster. Later that night, I saw Dax and Aria wrapped around each other through the glass of the hospital hallway. Definitely not just friends. I heard Dax whisper, if Cassian finds out you're faking amnesia just to be with me openly, he'll lose it. Aria pinched his cheek. So what? Everyone knows he loves me. Amnesia or not, he'll still beg me to marry him. Grandma's voice cut in sharply. Keep dreaming. Cassian didn't pick you. When the engagement is announced, we'll see how smug you are. I let out a bitter laugh and decided I'd heard enough. 2 days later, the Morel family hosted the grandest party we'd ever held. All 4 families attended. Aria stood at the center of the hall, Dax beside her, grinning smugly. Grandma's voice echoed coldly. Look at her. She begged her family to free Dax, but she never lifted a finger for you. Heartless. The whispers swirled around me. Why is Aria with Dax? Isn't Cassian supposed to be her fiancé? Grandpa waved me toward the stage and handed me the microphone. Cassian, this is your engagement. You should make the announcement. I took the mic, feeling Aria's gaze fixed on me. She looked confident, certain of her victory. I gave her a mocking smile and watched her tense up. Thank you all for coming, I said. I'd like to introduce my fiancé. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make the room lean toward me. chandeliers flickered. Crystal breathed. 1,000 eyes pressed into my back. "I'd like to introduce my fiancée," I said, and let the smile sharpen. Juniper Vale. The ballroom exhaled as if someone had just knocked the wind out of it. Somewhere, a glass tapped the floor and rolled. Plink, plink, plink. Until it hit a shoe. Conversation split open into gasps. Dax's smug grin cracked like sugar on a brulee. Aria went still, mouth parting, the confidence seeping from her eyes as if somebody had pulled a plug. Across the front row, the elders straightened. Grandpa's shoulders settled, and the faintest thread of relief tugged at his mouth. Juniper stepped forward from the side entrance as if she owned the stage and had merely loaned it to us for the evening. Silver silk, clean lines, hair pinned with a single onyx comb. She didn't glance at the murmuring crowd or at Aria. She looked only at me. "Cassian," she said softly, just for me to hear, and slid her cool hand into mine like we'd rehearsed for years. I lifted our joint hands. "Miss Vale has accepted." Applause broke over us, hesitant at first, then gaining courage once the elders stood to clap. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Livia Reed's face blanching, her fingers strangling the strap of her handbag. Dax tried to start a slow clap that died midair. Aria didn't clap at all. Grandpa joined us on stage and took the microphone. "As promised by the Morel family years ago, the Valles will receive our full cooperation on museum projects and archaeological digs. May this union be prosperous and, more importantly, kind." Kind. The word floated, surprising, and landed like a pebble in a lake whose surface I'd gotten used to seeing broken by stones. The quartet restarted, the lights warmed, and the dance floor cleared as people flowed toward us. Congratulations. Calculations. 100 versions of the same smile. Juniper squeezed my fingers once. Signal. We pivoted down the steps together, away from microphones and into the current. "Breathe," she murmured without looking up. "And keep your hands visible." They read hands more than eyes. "I thought they read bank ledgers," I said. "That too," she said, mouth quirking. "But hands tell the story people think they're hiding." Grandma's voice flicked my ear like a teacher with a ruler. "She's right. Smart girl. Keep her." "Working on it," I muttered under my breath. If Juniper heard, she didn't show it. She accepted compliments with a nod and an economy of thanks that made her seem like a blade in a room full of spoons. When the first wave receded, she angled us toward a quieter edge where a marble column offered cover and a server drifted with flutes of champagne. I reached for a glass. Juniper beat me to it, not to drink, but to swap. She pressed a different flute into my palm. I raised an eyebrow. "You always cut in line like that." "Always test the second glass," she said. "First pours get handled too much." Grandma hummed. "I like her." Across the room, Aria moved at last. She cut through guests without apology, heels describing a fast hard music against the floor. Dax shadowed her, cheeks still showing the print of my hand if you knew where to look. Celine and Mira trailed a safer distance behind, eyes wide, whispering. Aria stopped within arm's reach and lifted her chin. "Congratulations," she said, voice flat enough to slide under a door. "I suppose I should have expected this." Juniper's posture didn't change. "Thank you," she said evenly. "We appreciate your blessings." Aria ignored her and aimed at me. "You didn't even talk to me. You let me find out with everyone else." "Announcements are for everyone," I said. "You've always liked an audience." Dax laughed under his breath. "That's rich, Morel. Acting like you're above a scene when you made one in the hospital." Juniper turned her head and the look she leveled at him was so clean it made him flinch. "Mr. Halden," she said, "you nearly ran my fiancé over with a scooter. If you enjoy entrances, try doors." He crawled over his collarbones. Aria cut in. "He apologized." "You hit him anyway and you slapped me." "You called me a bully," I said. "I gave you a clear demonstration of the difference between a bump and bullying." Aria's nostrils flared. "You've always loved me." "This is petty." "If your grandfather forced you into picking Juniper, wishful thinking," Juniper said. "Cassian chose me." Aria finally looked at Juniper. Really looked as if taking her shape for the first time. You never even liked him. We fought, Juniper said. Those aren't the same thing. And I'm not the one kissing other men in hospital corridors. Aria's lips chilled. You have no proof of. Juniper's phone vibrated. She tapped. A few tables away, screens lit like lanterns in a swift, spreading bloom. Murmurs crested, the tide shifting. I didn't need to see the footage to know which one it was. Aria went perfectly still. Dax swore, low and ugly. Who leaked that? Juniper slid her phone back into her clutch. Hospitals have cameras. People have eyes. Aria's gaze swung back to me, pleading, trying to find a foothold. I was confused. I thought you'd chosen me, I thought. You thought you could have both, I said. You, Dax, me, the museums. It's not like that. Her voice thinned. You used to understand me. Grandma clicked her tongue. He understood just fine. He just stopped pretending it didn't hurt. Excuse me, Juniper said, and the politeness landed like a line being drawn in chalk. We have other guests to greet. She didn't wait for permission. She steered us away, leaving Aria's mouth open around something halfway between apology and argument. Once we had a sliver of quiet again, Juniper released my hand. Her palm was cool. Mine, I realized, had gone hot. You leaked it, I asked. No, she said, honest as a blade. But I told my cousin to ask for it, and I told my cousin exactly which hallway to ask about. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't have pushed. It was. The truth does its own work. I studied her. You always show up right on time. That's funny, she said dryly. You thought I was late for 10 years. I thought you were early to every fight. She laughed then, short and bright, like glass catching sunlight. We were kids. Anyway, you're welcome for the hallway and the hospital. Thank you, I said, meaning both. I glanced at my arm where the bandage hit the angry throb for kicking a man off me. Next time, kick first, she said. Apologize if necessary. Living is a useful precondition for manners. Next time, I said. Did you just plan for a life where people throw knives at me? People throw much worse than knives, she said simply. Especially when you stop giving them what they want. A ripple of movement reached us. Grandpa was coming, cane tapping a steady metronome. The elders swam behind him like an old slow school of fish that had survived storms and learned to respect the currents. Cassian, Grandpa said, voice pitched low for us alone. Congratulations. He nodded at Juniper. Miss Vale. Grandpa, I said, this is good. It will be, he said. If you both decide it is. His eyes warmed to Juniper. The Ashen Grove permit came through this afternoon. The Morels and Valles will run it jointly. Juniper's gaze sharpened. Ashen Grove. Yes, he said. The subsoil layers match the legends. If the tablet is there, we'll move the museum's entire north wing to house it. The tablet. The word rang in my chest the way a bell recognizes the hand that cast it. Grandma fondly, I told him to call you kind, and he calls you permit. Men. Still, Ashen Grove. Careful, boy. Last time, she went quiet so fast it made me frown. Last time what? I murmured. Juniper's head tipped. Last time what? Nothing, I said. Grandma's chatty. Grandpa cleared his throat. You can do your first dance, then slip out. No one will miss you for at least 10 minutes. That's when Aria's mother will try to corner me to renegotiate nothing at all. Livia won't let this go, Juniper said. She can scream at the ocean if she likes, Grandpa said. And for a moment, I saw the men who had slept in tents on permafrost and argued in 3 languages with men who thought ruins belonged to their donors. Tonight, we gather. Tomorrow we dig. His hand patted my shoulder. Be good to each other. He left us the way he'd come. A current making its own channel, unbothered by rocks. Juniper glanced at the dance floor. Can you waltz? I can count to 3. That's 2/3 of waltzing. Her hand found mine again, her other resting on my shoulder with a steadiness that made the ground stop pitching. We went out. The quartet slid easily into something that knew how to hold a body without showing off. "Look at us," Juniper said, a smile not far from mischief. "Enemies to choreography." "Speak for yourself," I said. "I never hated you." I was busy being offended. "You were adorable and loud," she said. "And you thought umbrellas only worked if you held them over other people." "You brought one," I said before I could stop myself. The memory opened, the rain, the hotel key, the stinging in my fingers. That night, the watch. "You weren't wearing shoes," she said. "I was worried you were going to catch pneumonia and die before I had the chance to apologize for calling you a mule-headed prince." "I was mule-headed." "You still are," she said. "You've just upgraded the saddle." We rotated past the edge of the floor. Aria watched, stiff teeth on her lower lip. Livia flanked her with eyes that promised war. Dax had his hands in his pockets and fury making his posture taller. "Is it cruel?" I asked under the music. "Doing this where she can see?" Juniper's gaze flicked to Aria and back. "It's honest," she said. "You tried soft truth for 3 years. How did that work out?" "Badly." "Try hard truth," she said. "We can sand it later if we need to." The song ended. Applause folded around us. We stepped back, and while the crowd breathed again, Juniper tugged me toward a side door half hidden behind a tower of flowers that smelled like money pretending to be spring. The corridor beyond was cool and blessedly empty. The noise dissolved into a long, gentle river. Juniper leaned a shoulder against the wall and looked up at me like she was about to recite terms. "Let's skip the performance review part," she said. "You chose me. I accept it. I don't think either of us did it for romance." "That's fair," I said. "But I don't do decorative engagements. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real. I don't mean a fairy tale. I mean an alliance that holds rules, lines, a project, us," she said. "And also Ashen Grove, the North Wing, and the dozen people who will try to ruin you to teach other men not to choose what you just chose. I have 3 rules." I found myself wanting to smile and not letting myself. "Of course you do. 1. No lying to save face. If it's ugly, say it ugly. We'll clean it later." "All right." 2. If you're in danger, you call me before you call a security detail. I have security for a reason." "You have me for a reason," she said without blinking. I show up. Grandma sighed in my ear like a woman settling into a comfortable chair. "Marry her twice." "And 3, I asked. She pushed off the wall. 3, no ghost between us. If your grandmother talks, let her talk. If mine sends a knife disguised as a corsage, I'll tell you. Secrets rot good wood." The humor fell out of me. "Last time," I said slowly. "Grandma almost said something about Ashen Grove." "Then we ask her again," Juniper said, so practical I almost laughed for real. "Not now. People will notice if you stand in a hallway making faces at the ceiling. But soon." Her hand brushed the place inside my elbow where the old ache had begun to wake again in anticipation of rain or argument. "You're in pain," she said. "Nothing dramatic," I lied automatically. Her look said she'd heard the lie and was tabling it rather than letting it slide. "Drink water," she said. "And don't let anyone hand you anything you didn't watch poured. Aria lost something tonight. People do stupid things when they lose." We went back to the ballroom. The second wave of congratulations arrived with sharper edges. In the corner, a group of young men with surnames that opened doors pretended to laugh as they stared. An older woman touched my sleeve like she owned it and told me how happy she was for my grandfather. A councilman tried to book a tour of a wing we hadn't built yet. And then Livia stepped into our path with Aria tethered at her side. "Cassian," Livia said, voice paper smooth over flint. "I'm sure this is all very exciting, but we both know you've been confused. Aria's amnesia, your accident. Emotions run high. I'm prepared to be generous. We can postpone the announcement and revisit this in private." "Livia," Juniper said pleasantly. "You're negotiating with the wrong generation." Livia's eyes cooled. "You're young. You think the first taste of a win is a lifetime of them. I've buried 4 of your father's proposals with one afternoon tea. Then you know I don't like tea, Juniper said. And I don't bury. Aria touched my wrist. Her fingers were cold. Cassian, please. I haven't been fair to you. I know that. But I woke up without a map and I grabbed the first thing that felt familiar. It was Dax. That's on me. But she faltered, glanced at Juniper, then back at me. I don't want to lose you, too. I could have recited the old script. Forgiveness in public, anger in private, a slow bleed of promises that never quite scabbed. Instead, you already did, I said gently. She flinched like it was a slap she hadn't braced for. Dax's mouth thinned, ugly and tight. Enjoy your evening, Juniper said with a nod that somehow felt like both a courtesy and a shield angled just so. We will. We didn't get 5 steps before a server with a tray of champagne appeared, smiling. Juniper watched, impassive. I remembered her rule and shook my head at the glass. The server moved on, unharmed by her lack of thirst. The string quartet shifted into something older. I felt the ache in my wrist. The thread pull under the bandage. Then, weirdly, a separate tug somewhere behind my breastbone, faint as a distant door knocking. Grandma's voice came and went like wind on a phone line. Don't drink, the sound fuzzed. I frowned. Juniper's eyes tracked the room with a hunter's patience, cataloging exits, bodies, intent. Security's posture just changed, she said, so mild it could have been a comment about flowers. Something's wrong. What do you? A shout shattered the music, not a knife this time. Not panic. An argument detonated by the far bar. 2 young men chesting like stags, their fathers already turning away in practiced mortification. Everyone pretended not to see it while seeing only that. There's your smoke, Juniper said. Where's the fire? I didn't have to ask long. A waiter brushed past, and for a sliver of a second, I saw a hand, a woman's, small, wearing a bracelet I'd seen on Aria a dozen times across a dozen summers. Clover charm, tiny and sharp. The waiter's tray dipped, then steadied. The flute at the edge trembled, threatening to tip into my path. Grandma's voice snapped back, loud as thunder. Cassian, no. I stepped left. The flute tipped, spilled. A sheet of champagne kissed the floor where my shoe had been a heartbeat earlier. It smelled faintly sweet, then sour, then like nothing at all. Juniper moved faster than thought. She caught my sleeve and pulled me back behind the marble column, her body a wall between me and the traffic lane the staff used. Her free hand snapped, and a man in a black suit who had been pretending to be wallpaper suddenly existed. Sample, she said. He crouched, dabbed a cloth in the puddle, sealed it in a tiny plastic sleeve that I would have made fun of yesterday. He melted, gone again. Who? I began. My father hires men who think they can see around corners, she said. I hire women who know what's behind them. The argument by the bar bloomed, did its job, kept eyes busy. Juniper's gaze cut the room in quarters. Why the clover bracelet? I asked. She wore it today, Juniper said. But jewelry circulates. Look left. I did. A woman in a green dress, the Reed family's PR director, turned her wrist to adjust her clutch. Clover charm. Aria stood behind her, face white as paper. Our eyes met. She shook her head once. Not me. And for the first time, I believed her. Grandma breathed softer. Not that one. The other. The one who never takes responsibility but always takes the prize. Dax, I said aloud and heard how ridiculous it sounded until I remembered who had scurried through life holding out an empty hand and somehow always come away with a full one. Men like Dax don't lace flutes, Juniper said. They hire people who do. So whose bracelet? Later, she said. You're paling. It was true. The distant knocking behind my sternum had become something thicker. My vision ghosted at the edges. Adrenaline, fear, or the idea of poison refusing to leave just because we hadn't invited it in. Breathe, she said again. In for 4, out for 6. I obeyed. The edges steadied. The ache in my wrist returned to its normal, honest throb. Water, she said, and I took it this time because I watched her pour it from a bottle still sealed. The cold moved through me. Simple and sane. Why would they try here? I asked. Because you humiliated them in public, she said. And because they think you won't retaliate if they do it elegantly. That was elegant, I said. For them, she said. Don't drink anything you didn't open yourself tonight. And tomorrow we visit Ashen Grove. Tomorrow, I said. The day after an attempted, whatever that was. The world doesn't wait for us to feel safe, she said. It didn't when you were a kid with no shoes in the rain. It won't now. Grandma's laugh warmed my ear. There it is. The spine I kept wishing you'd grow when you were 17 and in love with a pretty girl who cried at the right times. I wanted to argue just to hear Juniper push back. Instead, I nodded. A new current worried the crowd. Livia had cornered Grandpa at last. His face was patient, the way men's faces are when they've survived deserts and boardrooms, and find the latter far less forgiving. We made a circuit, accepted more congratulations, and when Celine and Mira finally found us, stood still long enough to let the sweetness of old friends soften the edges. Celine hugged me so hard my ribs complained. You did it, she whispered. You picked with your head and your bruised old heart. I'm proud of you. Mira bumped her shoulder into mine. And you picked the only girl who ever beat you at anything worth losing. Juniper accepted both compliments as if accepting a coat she'd have worn anyway. He's not bad at losing, she said. We're going to make him better at winning. When the lights dipped for the cake, when flashbulbs opened like mechanical flowers, when Aria and I found ourselves two bodies in parallel groups pretending to occupy different worlds, Grandma came back again. The static easing. Listen, boy, she said, and the tenderness made my throat hot. Ashen Grove is where you lived the first time you almost died. Not from a girl, not from a drink, from a promise you made yourself about being good and kind and easy to use. Don't make it again. When you go tomorrow, don't take the northern path. And whatever you do, don't give the watch to a man who calls himself a friend. The watch, I said aloud before I could stop myself. Juniper heard. What watch? I looked at my wrist. The bandage had skin, not time. The one I don't wear anymore, I said. The one Dax broke. Then don't take any watch, she said briskly, as if it were as simple as not wearing a tie that matched the wrong woman's dress. And if a man calls himself your friend before you call him yours, walk away. The cake was cut. The quartet closed on a final swell. Grandpa raised a glass, his eyes bright in a way that made me want to be worthy of the brightness. We didn't drink, Juniper and I. We let the moment move through us instead of into us. After the last toast, after the last handshake that mattered, Grandpa caught my eye, then tilted his head toward the east terrace. Cool night air, real sky, the sound of the city breathing a less expensive breath. You'll leave through the service door, Juniper said. We'll switch cars 2 blocks down. I said. She looked at me like I'd asked whether water was wet. Call me first. You're not the only one who keeps rules. We walked. Behind us, the last wave of guests formed a glittering weather system too far away to predict. Ahead, the service corridor waited with that honest, unadorned smell of bleach and onions and work. At the exit, I paused. Juniper. She turned. Thank you, I said again, because the word hadn't been enough the first time and still wasn't now. She considered me for a heartbeat that felt exactly the length of a breath. Don't thank me yet, she said. Thank me after Ashen Grove. And if we don't find the tablet, I asked. She smiled small and ferocious. Then we'll find whatever is trying to keep us from finding it. We stepped into the night. A figure peeled off the wall's shadow, one I'd known since we were 12, and he taught me how to cheat at cards while claiming it was a lesson in probability. He lifted a hand. Easy, old friend. Casual. Cassian, he said, heard the news. Congratulations. His eyes slid to Juniper. Calculating, then back. Got something for you. Thought you'd want it tonight of all nights. He held up a velvet box, shallow, familiar. Your watch. Got it fixed. Grandma's voice hit like a bell. No. Juniper's fingers landed on my forearm. Pressure just enough to say stop. I looked at the box, at the men who'd once called me brother and had meant friend only when I had something he wanted. Keep it, I said. He blinked. What? Keep it, I repeated. Consider it payment for the lesson. What lesson? He said, all injured charm. That I don't owe you the time you broke, I said. Juniper's hand eased. The night air lifted my hair and carried the smell of rain waiting somewhere past the skyline. Sirens wrote their tired songs 3 blocks away. The city kept breathing around us. Tomorrow, Juniper said. Tomorrow, I echoed as we slid into the car. As the door shut on the noise and we were briefly a world of two, Grandma's voice came one more time, gentle as a hand smoothing a blanket. Good, she said. Now, let's live this life differently. Dawn found the city rinsed clean, all last night's glitter sluiced down to gutters and forgotten doorways. Juniper drove with both hands, steady as if the car were an argument she intended to win without raising her voice. I watched streetlight shadows cross her cheekbone like thin, dissolving bruises and tried not to think about the flute that had missed my shoe by a heartbeat. No jewelry, Juniper said. Eyes on the road. No watch. No heroic detours. If we split, you call me first. You don't trust security. I trust them to arrive second, she said. I trust myself to arrive first. Grandma breathed in my ear, warmed by approval. She learns fast. Or you finally learn to listen. I'm listening, I said aloud. To me or to her, Juniper asked. Both, I said, and meant it. Ashen Grove rose from the valley like an old hymn. Low stone walls, the faint geometry of something once elegant, and then buried by time and men with short attention spans. Grandpa was already there in a battered field jacket that made him look younger than he had under chandeliers. The elders stood a few steps back, resolutely metropolitan in the middle of a ruin. Morning, Grandpa said. His eyes flicked to my empty wrist and softened. Good. A site manager hurried over with a tablet, electronic, not ancient, and a breathless report about ground-penetrating radar. Juniper listened with the patience of someone assembling a map in her head while the rest of us were squinting at weather. When the manager pointed toward a narrow trail angling north, I felt the hair at the back of my neck rise. Don't take the northern path, Grandma had said. We go south, I said. The manager blinked. Sir, the echo profile, south, I repeated. We do this by the book, and the first page is don't ignore the dead when they know the ground better than you. Understood, Grandpa said immediately, which bought us compliance faster than any badge. Juniper squeezed my arm once, not a question. We pivoted. The southern path was stingy, brush-tight, stones mean twice. Juniper pointed out things I wouldn't have noticed. A trip line disguised as route, a wedge of slate propped unnaturally against an outcrop. I caught a flash of clover at my edge of vision and stopped hard. The PR director in the green dress, Livia's shadow, was not dressed for a dig. She was dressed for a photo she intended to outlive. She had the clover bracelet on. When she saw me see her, she smiled like we were both about to witness a sunrise. Morning, she said. Lovely day. I'm here as an observer on behalf of the Reeds. You're here to make sure the Reeds get a story, Juniper said. Move back 10 meters. The woman's smile held. Of course. She didn't move. 2 of Juniper's not-quite wallpaper women appeared without appearing, and the PR director found herself gently, firmly relocated. Her smile turned glassy. Her bracelet flashed once in the scrubby light. Not Aria, I said quietly. No, Juniper said. Not Aria. A tremor went through my chest, a fine-threaded relief that felt like grief's younger brother. I had spent years hating the wrong people and giving the right ones all my softness. Today, I wanted to be accurate. The south path opened its jaw and offered stone steps worn to comforts by centuries of feet. The air changed temperature as we descended, cooler, thinner, as if the past was a wine cellar we were trespassing in. The first chamber was all patience. The second was intention. The third one waited like a held breath. Tablet, Grandpa said softly, reverent without theater. It wasn't what I expected. Not a rectangle carved with dusty gods. Not a shining disk promising miracles to the faithful. It was a slab of black stone, smooth as night river water set into a pedestal of raw limestone. No marks, no script, just a shallow depression at its center where a palm might rest if a palm dared. Juniper looked at me and it felt like a dare and a benediction. Rules, she said. No line to save face, I said, and the old habit of minimalism shrank away. I loved badly. I let what I wanted make me stupid. I kept calling it loyalty because the word hurt less. She nodded once. 2, if I'm in danger, I call you first. 3, no ghost between us, I said. Even the ones I like hearing. I set my hand in the depression. For half a second, nothing. Then the stone woke the way a lake wakes. No light, just movement inside something that had been pretending to be still. Cassian, said Grandma's voice right in my skull. Cassian, if I were still around, I'd tell her exactly what I think. The words I'd heard in the hospital layered over the stone-cold present. Perfect, unchanged. She laughed gently at herself. All right, then. Let's be honest. And when she spoke next, she was not my grandmother. The timbre shifted, subtle, like a violin sliding from one player to another who has studied the same teacher but learned his own wrists. It was my voice, older by a handful of winters, scraped by a handful of losses I hadn't yet lived. Cassian, I said to myself, from the wrong side of time, I used her voice because you listened to her when you refused to listen to yourself. I'm sorry for the trick. I didn't have another way to get through. The chamber did not echo. The words sat where they were put. Last time, my voice continued, you kept trying to be the easiest person in every room. You died of that. Not in a headline way. In the small ways that add up. When I finally got here to Ashen Grove, I used the tablet. It carries sound backwards like a river that remembers snow. I left you everything we needed. Don't take the northern path. Don't give the watch to the man who calls himself your friend. Pick the girl who shows up. I realized I was shaking. Not with fear, with recognition. With the relief of finding handwriting you love on a box you had been sure was empty. Juniper's fingers laced with mine, anchoring. There's more, the older me said quieter. If you're hearing this, you already did better than I did. You told the truth out loud. You kept your own time, and you chose someone who will outstand a storm. Good. Now, there's one thing left. When they come for you today, and they will, don't punish the wrong person because it's easier. The bracelet is bait. The hand behind it sits 3 seats farther from the fire. The stone cooled under my palm. The voice thinned. Live differently. Cassian, please. I didn't get to. That's why I sent you the ghost. Silence came back with both hands. When I lifted my hand, it left a pale print as if my skin had learned to glow for a second and then forgotten how. Grandpa's mouth was open slightly. His eyes, my father's eyes, shone. Juniper breathed out. Not a ghost, she said. An echo. And a choice, Grandpa said. I'm sorry, I said, because a part of me felt like I had cheated on Grandma by using her face to talk to myself. And a part of me felt like she would forgive me for anything that kept me breathing. Juniper adjusted her grip. We're not alone, she said mildly. Footsteps overhead, a scuffle, a hiss of comms. One of Juniper's women slipped down the steps like a thought. 3 coming down the north, she said. 2 from the main. Livia's PR woman is pretending to faint. Dax is pretending to be in charge. Aria isn't pretending anything. She's crying. Let's go, I said. We climbed fast. At the mouth of the stair, the light blew open again. Dax stood there with 2 men who had bought their muscles on discount and learned their courage from movies. The PR director leaned against a rock, wrist bare now, clover bracelet gone. Livia wasn't here, which told me she had learned to send other people's hands while keeping hers clean. Aria saw me and broke away from no one in particular. Her face was wet and furious. It wasn't me, she said before I could speak. I told you 1,000 lies, and this isn't one. I didn't touch your glass. I didn't bring that bracelet. I didn't, she swallowed, and the swallow hurt me in a place I thought I'd bricked up. I didn't choose you when it counted. I know that. But I didn't try to end you. I know, I said. She flinched like I'd struck her or saved her. Sometimes those are cousins. It was Livia, she said. It was always Livia. When I woke up, whatever I woke up from, she told me what to say. She told me to hold the story like a rope and not let go. I thought I was being strong. I was just being obedient. Dax laughed. Don't be dramatic, Ari. You think you're a villain because you couldn't pass freshman lit without crying. Juniper spoke for the first time, almost bored. Mr. Halden, your men went down the north path. That was unwise. They got this, Dax said, which was rich because the only thing his men got was immediately and carefully accompanied to a comfortable patch of dirt where zip ties and a former rugby forward named Mei Lin made philosophical conversation about the pain-to-sense ratio. You brought a bracelet to a dig site, Juniper told the PR director, not looking at her. Next time, bring a lawyer. The woman tilted her chin. We all serve someone. Juniper's mouth curved. I serve weather and stone. They don't pay, but they outlive my enemies. Dax stepped in, that third-hand swagger he wore like a jacket bought on a richer man's card. You think Morel's going to choose you when you make everything this small? He likes grand gestures. He likes girls who build fireworks. I thought of the hospital hallway. I thought of umbrellas. I like girls who show up, I said. He rolled his eyes. You slapped me in front of my girlfriend yesterday. Want to make it a set? Not really, I said. I'd rather make it a boundary. He took a step like he wanted to test that sentence for structural integrity. 3 things happened at once. One of Juniper's women changed position a fraction and the air noticed. Grandpa lifted his cane the way men do when they've used it to break worse habits than knees. Aria put her palm on Dax's chest and said, "Stop." He laughed at her hand. He tried to step through it. He didn't. She had learned something in the last 12 hours that did not come from Livia. You're not going to be my ruin, she told him simply. He blinked. What? I've spent years being someone's, she said. I'm done. Men like Dax always miss the moment the room's gravity changes. He missed this one, too. He tried to shove past her. He didn't get far. 2 zip ties later, he was relocated to the philosophical dirt. We could have called police. We could have fed headlines. We didn't. Juniper slid her phone away. Let the Reeds clean their house, she said. Let the Haldens teach their son how to be poor. We build. Grandpa nodded. We build. Aria wiped her face with emotion that looked like it hurt. I'm going to tell the truth, she said to no one and to everyone. About the bracelet. About Livia. About me. You don't have to tell me, I said. I'm not telling you, she said. A little smile that had real blood in it. I'm telling me. We let her go. Livia would either devour her confession or choke on it. That was not my job anymore. We went back down. The tablet waited. The air in the 3rd chamber tasted like pennies and mountain sleep. Juniper rested her hand next to the depression but didn't touch it. What now? She asked. Now we stop asking a rock to be our mother, I said. And we start being our own. She huffed a laugh. Good. I was worried you were going to make me compete with a boulder. Unfair fight. I said the boulder has better cheekbones. We didn't declare love. We didn't rehearse vows. We sat on a ledge that had held 1,000 other backs and let silence be a language instead of a punishment. When we climbed out, the sky had done one of those abrupt expensive blue tricks as if to prove color theory. At the cars, Grandpa handed me a sealed envelope with my name on it in an angular hand that smelled like field notebooks and late nights. From your grandmother, he said. She left it in her will, he said, for you to open when you found Ashen Grove. She knew, I asked. She always did, Grandpa said, about more than anyone gave her credit for. I didn't open it there. We drove until the city reappeared, until the radio found a station that only played songs you could sing to with the window down. In my apartment, with Juniper's shoulder against my doorframe and the kind of quiet that knows how to stand guard, I slid my thumb under the flap. Inside, 1 sheet. No poetry, no scold, Just my name at the top and her ordinary, practical voice on the page. Cassian, love. By now, you'll have decided to live. I'm proud of you. When you hear me, no, it's not because the dead stay noisy. It's because you were always the kind of boy who used my voice when he needed courage. That's all a ghost is for. Courage you borrow in your own accent. Give the watch away. Keep the girl who shows up. Build something that outlasts your beautiful mistakes. Grandma. I read it twice. The first time I cried like a child who had been returned to the right house after a long, stupid detour. The second time, I laughed because I had never loved anyone who bossed me more gently. Juniper didn't touch me. She didn't have to. When I finished, she held out a pen. What's that for? I asked. Our rules, she said. Put them where they don't go light. We wrote them on an index card stolen from my desk and taped it inside the kitchen cabinet everyone opens first. No line to save face. Call each other first. No ghosts between us. Then we called Grandpa and told him our plan for the museum's north wing. Not a hall of conquest, not a donor list with names cut into stone like they'd been good instead of wealthy. We would build the Ashen Grove Gallery, a long quiet room where the tablet would sit without myth and with context. A plaque would tell the truth in small letters. Echo tablet, function unknown. Local legend suggests messages move backward a long time the way snow becomes river becomes lake becomes rain. Curatorial note. Whether or not that legend is true, this object taught two people to live differently. That is enough. We invited Celine and Mira to coffee in the construction dust and made them promise to be our first unofficial docents. Celine cried into a hard hat. Mira took a selfie with the slab and captioned it Ghost Phone. We didn't invite the press. Livia tried to, and found herself uninvited by a board that had decided at last to be brave. Dax vanished from the gossip pages the way men do when they meet consequences without cameras. Weeks later, after the scaffolding came down and before the tourists found their favorite angles, Juniper and I stood in the new room alone. The stone was itself, exactly, stubborn to every story we tried to force onto it. Do you hear her? Juniper asked softly. I listened. The air hummed the way empty rooms hum. My own pulse counted me present. Somewhere far away a city rehearsed its sirens. No, I said, and felt no loss. But I hear me. What do you say? Juniper asked. I turned to her. Her hair had come loose at the back. A quiet rebellion against pins. I say thank you for showing up, I said. I say I'm sorry I'm slow sometimes. I say let's build a life where we don't need miracles to behave. That's a good exhibit label, she said. Too long, I said. The donors would complain. She smiled. It wasn't a fireworks smile. It was the kind you keep because you need it tomorrow. We didn't kiss then. We didn't have to make it cinematic for it to be true. We stood with our foreheads close enough that breath decided to share. We let the slab keep its secrets. We let the future be a room we were both allowed to enter. When we finally turned to go, a light flicker passed over the tablet as the sun did something clever with a museum window. For a heartbeat, a voice threaded up through me. Not Grandma, not me from later. Just that small, stubborn part of a person that remembers what it's like to be held correctly. Good, it said in every accent I have ever loved. Now live this life differently. We did.